It was twilight in the woods, and I was standing right in front of this old, shabby cottage. My heart was beating fast, so I took a deep breath to calm myself down before stepping inside. Even though the house was completely furnished, the lights were all off, making the whole place feel super creepy. The cold, dusty air made me shiver the moment I crossed the threshold. Then suddenly, the heavy wooden door slammed shut behind me. I totally panicked and started banging my fists against it, shouting for whoever was outside to let me out, but no one opened it. Instead, all I heard was a chilling sound of laughter echoing from outside. Right at that second, the hair on my neck stood up because I felt someone creeping up behind me. I saw a dark shadow looming over the floor, so I slowly turned around, and what I saw terrified me so much that my heart almost stopped. Anyway, hey guys, I am Clover, the girl who just got scared out of her mind. I know, it was pretty embarrassing, right? Let me rewind a bit and tell you how I ended up in that mess in the first place. But hey, before we dive into the story, please hit that like and subscribe button for me. Back then, I used to have everything a girl could ever dream of. I remember waking up every morning in my cozy, beautiful bedroom like a little princess. My family was really famous because both of my parents were brilliant cardiologists who had saved countless lives and made huge contributions to medicine. Every time I walked down the hallway toward the dining room, I would look at all the awards, certificates, and news articles about them hanging on the wall. I felt so proud to be a part of the Howard family. I looked at my parents with so much admiration, and I was determined to follow in their footsteps. My ultimate goal was to get into Harvard Medical School and become an amazing doctor just like them. Because of that dream, I always pushed myself to be the best at school. I went to a prestigious private academy where I aced every single test and maintained top grades in all my subjects. Everyone knew me, and whenever I walked down the school corridors, my friends from the student council would gather around me. On top of my studies, I was also elected class president, which meant I had to manage big school events like organizing our annual winter dance. I was living my best life, and everything seemed absolutely perfect. Finally, all the chaotic preparations for the winter dance were finished. As I walked into the ballroom, I looked around at the gorgeous winter decorations, feeling super proud and relieved that I could finally sit back and enjoy the magical night. But right at that moment, my phone buzzed in my hand with a notification. It was a link to a fresh news article claiming that my parents were involved in a failed surgery that cost a patient's life. At first, I just brushed it off, thinking it was just another ridiculous piece of tabloid fake news that could never be real. But when I looked up, the music seemed to fade away. Everyone in the ballroom was staring at me with judgmental, side-eye looks, whispering while staring at their own phone screen. They had all received the same news alert. My face burned with embarrassment, and a wave of panic washed over me. I knew right then that I had to leave immediately and find my parents. I sprinted out of the school building and rushed straight home to my parents' office. As soon as I saw them, I couldn't hold back and asked them directly if the crazy rumors in the news were completely false. My dad looked at me with heavy, tired eyes, trying to calm me down. He explained that when the female patient was rushed into their emergency room, her condition was already far too critical, and there was simply nothing more they could do to save her. It turned out that the patient belonged to the Albert family, one of the most powerful and influential families in the country. Her grieving family took her death terribly, especially her son, who held a deep grudge and blamed my parents for losing his mother. He was the mastermind behind this massive media smear campaign against us. Even though my parents tried to explain the medical reality to him over and over again, he refused to listen. Instead, he filed a massive lawsuit against them, forcing them to prepare for a public trial. Within days, the news blew up completely, becoming a hot topic everywhere. Reporters, news vans, and nosy neighbors surrounded our front lawn every single day. I stood by my upstairs bedroom window, watching my parents walk out to face the flashing cameras on their way to court, listening to the cruel comments people threw at our family. Back at school, the constant pressure was slowly driving me crazy. During math class, my head felt like it was going to explode, and a loud ringing noise filled my ears, completely drowning out the room. I pressed my hands tightly over my ears, trying to block out everything. Suddenly, the teacher's voice broke through the noise, calling my name louder and louder, asking me to solve an equation on the board. Overwhelmed by the crushing stress, I lost control, stood up abruptly, and yelled at the top of my lungs for everyone to stop shouting. The entire classroom instantly went dead silent. Everyone stared at me as if I had completely lost my mind. My cheeks flushed with deep shame as I realized what I had just done. Seconds later, students started whispering and laughing behind their hands. I grabbed my textbooks, bolted out of the classroom, and ran down the hallway, but no matter how fast I ran, the harsh whispers and pointed looks seemed to follow me everywhere. everywhere. With nowhere else to go, I ran all the way home, locked myself in my bedroom, and broke down crying on my bed out of sheer frustration and helplessness. A little later, my parents walked into my room, looking deeply concerned for me. My mom gently suggested that it might be best for me to go stay at my aunt's house for a while. I jumped up, startled, telling them that I could never abandon them in a mess like this. My mom wrapped her arm around me, explaining that they were not sending me away forever, but things were just too toxic around here right now, and they wanted to protect me from all the scandal. My dad chimed in, reassuring me that this arrangement was only temporary, and we would all reunite as soon as the legal battle was over. I looked at them, hesitating, and asked if they could promise me that. My dad pulled my mom and me into a warm family hug, promising that everything would be okay. When I finally arrived at my aunt's front door with my heavy bags, she opened it looking completely annoyed. Without even welcoming me inside, she told me that my room was up in the dusty attic, sternly warning me not to make any trouble since I was only staying there temporarily. She added that it was already bad enough that my parents had been hit with a huge lawsuit. I felt a sting of disappointment in my chest, realizing how cold she was. Right at that moment, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom asking if I had made it safely, and if my aunt was treating me well. I stared at the screen, knowing I shouldn't cause her any extra worry, so I quickly replied that I had arrived and that Aunt was super nice, assuring her I would be totally fine. But honestly, looking at the gloomy house, I really wasn't sure how I was going to survive living. The next morning was my first day at my new school, and I was forced to ride this old, rusted pile of junk bike. Pedaling that heavy thing up the hills made me sweat like crazy, and it felt like I was dragging a ton of weights behind me because the rear wheel kept wobbling badly. Suddenly, a boy on his bike zoomed past me and shouted something that sounded like he was calling me fat. Surprised and offended, I yelled back in disbelief, asking him what he had just said to me. He pulled over, pointed straight down at my rear wheel, and clarified that he said I had a flat tire, not a fat side. Oh, that explained why pedaling felt like a nightmare. We both parked our bikes on the sidewalk, and he kindly crouched down to help me fix the tire. A few minutes later, the tire was good as new. He introduced himself as Percy, and it turned out today was his very first day at the new school too. Since we were heading to the same place, Percy and I ended up riding to school together. But as soon as we stepped into the busy main hallway, a wave of whispers swept through the crowd and everyone started staring right at us. Before I could process what was happening, two overly styled girls rushed up, grabbed my arm, and dragged me away from Percy. One of them, a dramatic girl named Jody, asked me who I thought I was and why I was hanging around Percy, demanding to know if I was his girlfriend. I shook my head in annoyance, telling her that I had only met him 10 minutes ago and didn't even know who he was. The other girl, Holly, gasped and asked if I lived under a rock, revealing that he was Percy Albert, the sole heir of the super wealthy and powerful Albert family. A sudden chill ran down my spine. That name sent my brain into overdrive. Could this really be a coincidence? Was the son who was aggressively suing my parents going to the exact same school as me? But then a clever idea suddenly popped into my head. I thought to myself that this could actually be my ultimate chance to manipulate him into dropping the lawsuit against my family. If I could pull this off, everything would return to the way it used to be. I smirked to myself, realizing that the easiest way to get what I wanted was to make him fall madly in love with me, because people would do absolutely anything for love. Luck was definitely on my side because we ended up in the same biology class right after that, where we had to pair up for a lab experiment. Holly and Jody started aggressively arguing with each other over who got to sit with Percy. But while those two were busy squabbling, Percy walked right past them and directly asked me to be his lab partner. I smiled inwardly, thinking to myself that the prey had walked straight into my trap without me even lifting a finger, leaving Holly and Jody staring at me with pure jealousy. That night, back in my small room at my aunt's house, I pulled up Percy's social media page on my laptop. Scrolling through his posts, I noticed a picture of him tagged at Rolling Green Golf Course, revealing that he played golf there regularly. Right then, an idea hit me I could apply to work there as a caddy. I submitted my application online that very evening, and to my delight, I was hired almost instantly. I picked up the ropes quickly, though I had a little extra help. Naturally, I casually glanced at Percy's usual golfing schedule, and definitely did not meticulously plan a totally accidental encounter. On my first day working his shift, I parked my golf cart outside the lobby, soaking in the sunlight and feeling cute, completely ready to charm my rich target. But as soon as I looked up, my jaw dropped in shock. Standing right in front of me were Holly and Jody. Holly immediately snapped at me, complaining about how long I had taken and grumbling about the heat. I tried to stay positive, thinking I would still get to spend time with Percy on the green. But as soon as he appeared in the distance, those two girls sprinted toward him like moths to a flame. That left me struggling to drag around massive, heavy golf bags under the scorching sun, sweating uncontrollably. To make matters worse, Jody grabbed Percy's arm and shrieked about how terrible I smelled, telling me to keep my distance, while she and Holly laughed like villains. Fortunately, Percy pulled his arms away from them, telling them to stop being so mean. He walked over to me and kindly offered to carry the heavy bag himself. I smiled and thanked him for rescuing me once again. He told me it was no problem, adding that he was surprised to see me working there. I playfully told him that I was actually pretty good at golf myself. Watching him prepare his shot, I handed him a specific club and advised him to use it for his 50-yard swing, demonstrating how he should center his body and give it a solid backswing. Percy took my tip, took a swing, and hit a magnificent shot that sailed straight toward the pin. Impressed by my expertise, Percy excitedly asked if I would consider becoming his personal caddy. I decided to play hard to get, squinting one eye to check his reaction while pretending to hesitate. Percy begged me to help him out, while Holly and Jody glared at us from behind him with pure jealousy. I finally agreed to his request, but added that I was reserving one favor card to use whenever the time was right. Curious, he asked when that would be, but I just giggled and told him he would have to wait and see. From that day on, we became an unstoppable team on the course, constantly jumping onto the golf cart together to escape Holly and Jody whenever they tried to corner us. During one of our breaks, Percy turned to me, suddenly looking a bit shy and stumbling over his words as he asked if I was free this coming Saturday so he could repay me for all my help. Inside my head, I was screaming with pure joy because my plan was working like a charm, but on the outside, I kept my composure, winking at him and saying I would only go if it counted as a real date. Hearing that, Percy flushed a bright crimson red. Here is the next part of the story. Saturday afternoon finally came, and the whole city was covered in stunning golden leaves. Percy and I took a trolley downtown to enjoy the autumn view. The cool autumn breeze felt amazing, and I even stuck my head out the window to try catching the falling leaf. Looking out, I couldn't help but admire how pretty everything looked. At one point, a leaf landed softly on my hair. Percy gently reached over to pick it out, smiling warmly at me when I caught him doing it, which made my cheeks burn with a slight blush. As golden hour hit, we stopped at a bustling carnival. I really had to admit, Percy was surprisingly sweet the entire time. He carefully shielded me from the surging crowds, and when we rode the giant Ferris wheel and I felt terrified of the height, he held my hand tightly to comfort me. Feeling his warm grip made my heart flutter for a second, and I couldn't help but wonder how someone so gentle could hold such deep resentment against my parents. As the very last ray of sunlight faded away, the carnival lights brightened the dusk, making Percy's eyes look incredibly dreamy. Before I knew it, I was leaning in toward him, but I suddenly caught myself, snapped back to reality, and stopped right in my track. I noticed a faint flicker of disappointment in his eyes, but I told myself to get a grip. I was supposed to make him fall for me, not fall for him. The moment the ride ended, I quickly hopped off, slipped away into the crowd, and left Percy behind so I could go buy a cold drink to cool off and collect my thoughts. But when I reached the drink stand, I gasped in horror because my wallet was nowhere to be found in my bag. Panic washed over me as I stood there helplessly. Luckily, a handsome guy standing behind me in line noticed my dilemma, stepped up to the counter, and told the stall owner he would pay for my drink, handing over the money before I could even object. I breathed a sigh of relief and thanked him profusely, telling him I owed him big time. He smiled smoothly and told me not to worry about it. I insisted on getting his contact information so I could pay him back later, but he raised an eyebrow and playfully asked if that was my smooth way of asking him out on a date. I stood there completely dumbfounded, trying to explain that I didn't mean it that way, but he cut me off with a flirty smile, telling me that if my boyfriend didn't mind, I should give him my hand. He pulled out a pen, scribbled his phone number right on my palm, and told me to meet him at Caribou Coffee at 8 on Sunday morning, adding that it would be my treat. He gave me a quick wink and casually strolled away. By the time I got home after that date with Percy, I felt completely confident that he was falling for me. I just needed to push him a little further, so he would confess his feelings directly. While walking down the hallway at the golf club staff room the next day, I spotted those two silly girls, Holly and Jody, sneaking around my locker. Looking closely, I saw Jody writing something on a piece of paper. Holly whispered to her, telling her to write a fake note instructing me to meet Percy at the haunted house in the woods so they could trap me inside. I smirked to myself, thinking what a lame, immature prank that was, but then I realized I could actually use it to my advantage to get Percy all worried and worked up about my safety. To make sure my plan worked, I whipped out my phone and sent a quick text to Percy, letting him know I got his message and was heading over to the haunted house in the woods right now. Later at twilight, I made my way into the wood. Even though I knew it was just a silly prank, The spooky atmosphere and the eerie silence of the forest still gave me chill. Standing in front of the shabby cottage, I took a deep breath to calm my racing heart and stepped inside. The dark house was furnished, but with all the lights off, it felt genuinely creeping. Suddenly, the heavy door slammed shut behind me as Holly and Jody locked it from the outside. I panicked, banging my fists on the door and screaming at them to let me out. But only their wicked laughter echoed back from the yard. Just then, the temperature seemed to drop, and I felt a chill run down my spine as a dark shadow appeared behind me. I turned around, so utterly terrified that all the color drained from my face. Losing my composure completely, I screamed at the top of my lungs, thinking I was face to face with a real ghost. Suddenly, the lights flickered on. An old man holding a walking cane lightly tapped me on the head, grumbling at me to stop shrieking because he was a living human and not a ghost yet. I held my throbbing head in utter confusion, wondering if he was actually real. Right at that chaotic moment, the front door burst open and Percy rushed inside frantically, telling me not to worry because it was just his grandpa. I blinked in surprise, looking back and forth between the old man and Percy, asking what on earth his grandfather was doing in this creepy house. Percy rubbed the back of his neck nervously and confessed that this place was actually his family's property. We walked out to the cottage's front porch, where Percy explained that this old house belonged to his granddad. Ever since his mom passed away, his granddad's health had deteriorated. Consumed by grief and hatred, no one in the family cared for the old man except Percy, who brought him here to recover. Hearing this, a wave of sympathy hit me. I realized how much pain he was in, so I gave him a big hug. Still holding me, Percy whispered that he was in love with me. My heart raced, and looking into his eyes, I knew my feelings for him were real too. I thought we could make this work, but just as I was about to confess back, my phone rang. It was my mom, weeping desperately as she told me we had lost the lawsuit. Hunter had taken everything from us, and my dad almost had a heart attack from the stress. Tears streaming down my face, I looked at Percy in confusion and horror. How could we ever be together now? Overwhelmed, I ran away into the night. After that, I avoided Percy completely, packed my bags, and decided to leave my aunt's house. Luckily, Hunter, the charming guy I had met at the carnival date, came to pick me up. He helped me move into a cozy trailer house that he found for my family. But suddenly, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find Percy, looking frantic after searching everywhere for me. But when he saw Hunter, he froze in shock. Hunter smirked, mocking Percy for finding us so fast, and revealed that they were actually brothers. He stepped uncomfortably close to me, provoking Percy by asking how he would feel if he lost me too. Percy snapped, telling him not to touch me, but I lost my temper entirely. I yelled at them both, revealing that I was Clover Howard, and that my parents were the doctors they ruined. I confessed that I had foolishly tried to manipulate Percy to save my family, crying out that we were completely broken now. Crestfallen and filled with regret, Percy left, reluctantly dragging Hunter away. A few days later, my parents arrived and revealed the shocking truth. The son who sued us was actually Hunter, not Percy. Hunter had gone missing as a child and only returned recently, right before his mother passed away, so his blind grief made him lash out at us. Percy had actually been trying to stop his brother all along. Guilt crushed me as I realized I had blamed the wrong person, and I rushed to find Percy to fix my mistake. I reached the cottage in the woods during a heavy downpour, looking through the window to see Percy arguing with Hunter. Hunter grabbed Percy's collar, calling him a traitor for falling in love with the daughter of the people who couldn't save their mom. Seeing Hunter draw his fist to punch Percy, I kicked the door open to stop them. Percy frantically warned me to leave, but I insisted on apologizing to him. Enraged, Hunter lunged toward me instead, swinging his fist at my face, but Percy jumped in front of me, taking the full blow to his stomach and collapsing onto the floor with me. Just then, their elderly grandfather appeared at the stairs, trembling as he begged them to stop fighting, before suddenly collapsing to the ground. Percy and I caught him, and I quickly pulled out my phone to call my dad. Hunter violently grabbed my wrist, accusing me of trying to mock them. But after failing to reach their own doctor due to the storm, he finally broke down. Realizing his granddad's life was on the line as the old man grew paler, Hunter released my wrist and wept, begging me to save him. I called my parents immediately. They arrived within minutes, performed emergency first aid, and successfully stabilized his breathing. Seeing his granddad safe, Hunter sank to his knees, crying tears of deep regret for letting his hatred almost cost his grandfather's life. He apologized sincerely to all of us, promising to make everything right. The very next day, Hunter held a huge press conference in front of all the major media outlets. Standing before the cameras, he publicly admitted that he was completely wrong to sue my parents and drag our family through the mud. He took full responsibility for his actions, promising to clear our family's reputation completely and compensate us for all the financial losses we suffered. Once everything was settled, my family and I finally got to turn the page and start a fresh new chapter in this town. My parents bought a lovely home and even founded a brand new hospital to continue doing what they do best, helping and saving people in need. As for me, I got my life back on track and resumed my dream of becoming a top-notch cardiologist. Harvard Medical School, here I come. Oops, wait a second. I almost forgot the most important part. Of course, Percy and I got together after all that drama. I mean, you didn't honestly think we would go through that entire roller coaster of crazy events without me finally admitting my true feelings to him, did you? I had been holding those emotions back for what felt like an eternity, but now, I finally get to enjoy my sweet, well-deserved happy ending.